We are recording. That's that good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get out a pen and paper. We got some science to learn right now. I hope you're ready. It's going to be a quick one. All right, so real quick background. Last week, I shot my first ever roll of infrared film, and it was probably one of the most challenging film photographic experiences I've ever had, but it was also one of the most rewarding, and the results that I got from it were nothing short of astounding, I think, and I think it's okay to say that. Today I'm going to explain my process behind how I did it, what exactly I did, what even is infrared film, how I shot it, how I developed it, and then just some final thoughts, which will maybe inspire you to go out and do the same. Maybe. It's tough. First, we got to start off with what even is infrared. So if you went to kindergarten, you may remember the color spectrum: Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. Today I'm going to write them kind of backwards. Vib guy, or we're going to be talking about the infrared spectrum, which is after red. More precisely, it is longer wavelength than red. We're going to be ignoring the side of the spectrum closer to ultraviolet, which is going to be higher energy waves. So infrared, cool. So you can see light anywhere from 380 to 740 nanometers. That's visible light. Shortwave infrared is from about 740 range to 860. And then longwave thermographic IR is from 900 to 14,000 nanometers. So the filter that I used blocked out everything under 720 nanometers. Any wavelength of light that was shorter than 720 nanometers wasn't allowed to pass through this lens. So if we were able to see infrared, this filter would essentially be clear. But since we can't, it is pretty black. So the film that I used was Rollei Infrared 400 film, and that specific film is sensitive to the entire visible spectrum, so all the way down to 380 nanometers, all the way up to 820 nanometers. So when I used that filter and I blocked out everything under 720 nanometers, I got a 100 nanometer range of light that was going to be hitting my film and making the image. Cool? Tracking? Okay. It gets harder. My initial thought was, oh, infrared film is going to make a cool image no matter what. Not true. If you don't use the filter, which I actually forgot to do on 2 shots just by accident, your image is going to look like a normal black and white picture. So, I don't know if that's what you want, but there are a lot of cheaper black and white films out there. This thing cost me like $13. So when I was reading the forums online, one of the things I read was that this film can't see heat. The reason for that is that this only sees shortwave IR, whereas the thermographic IR is longer wavelength, well, longer than what this film could even see. So then you might be asking, what are these colors coming from? And it's not heat, it's actually just what happens to be reflecting the infrared. Oops. Similar to, bright things on regular film that reflect regular light turn white, right? Like when the image is overexposed. The same thing happens with infrared. Whatever is reflecting infrared is going to be rendered as white. So chlorophyll is what makes leaves green, and that just so happens to reflect a lot of infrared light. And that's why the trees and the leaves and everything have that nice white glow to them, which I think is so sweet. I was pretty stoked when I saw the scans. On the flip side, the sky doesn't reflect anything, because if you think about it, there's a little bit coming back from what's reflected in from the ozone, but you're essentially just looking at space out there, and there's nothing to reflect that infrared, that shortwave infrared light. That's why the sky is black. Same with water. Water doesn't really reflect infrared, so the water is going to render as black too. Same thing with shadows. Nothing's going to be reflected. That's why I chose to go on a really sunny day just to kind of be safe and maybe get some good shots. Cool. Part 2, how to shoot infrared film. As I mentioned earlier, the film is able to see the entire visible spectrum as well as a bunch of extra wavelengths up to 820 nanometers. So understanding that is important in understanding why I shot it, how I shot it, and why I had to do the things that I did. So in order to block out those lower wavelengths of light so that it doesn't look like a regular black and white picture, I used the Hoya R72 filter, which cuts about 5 stops of light. So essentially what it does is it cuts the amount of light so that only 1/32 of the total light available is actually hitting the film. It's like sunglasses for your lens, but it's a little bit more than that, obviously, because the infrared stuff. It cuts a bunch of light. So what I had to do was overexpose my film a ton and allow a ton more light in than I normally would. If you're not familiar with the Sunny 16 rule, it's pretty basic. If it's sunny outside, you set your aperture to f16 and you set your film to 1 divided by your film speed without going over. So the closest to 400, which is the speed of this film without going over, is 1/250th of a second. That's just my camera. My camera can only do 1/250th or 1/500th, so I chose 1/250th. And that's what I worked with as my base. So overexposing 5 stops from there, right? So doubling the amount of light 5 times is going to be to 1/125th, 1/60th, 1/30th, 1/15th, and 1/8th. Cool? So this is where things get tricky. Okay, so f16 in 1/8 of a second. That's my base of what I'm working with, right? Since I wasn't sure what this film was going to look like, I bracketed around that. So I did a lot of exposures at 1/4 of a second, a lot at 1/8 of a second, and a lot actually at 1/2 of a second too. That's 2 stops overexposed what it should have been, because I heard online that this film reacts really well to being overexposed, but you don't really want to underexpose it. Some of you might be asking, why not shoot at a wider aperture and a faster shutter speed? Wouldn't it just be the same as shooting at a tiny aperture and a slow shutter speed? Yes, but to understand why I did that, you have to understand how infrared focuses. So infrared focuses at a different point because the wavelength is longer and it goes through the glass a different way. So I chose f16, a tiny little aperture, to give me the greatest depth of field so that there was a higher chance that I would get my subject in focus, because I had to focus, then put the black filter on it, and then just fire and hope that it was good, because the filter was black and I couldn't see through it. So f16 gave me the greatest chance of getting my subject in focus, and a byproduct of that is that I had to really bring down my shutter speed and walk around lugging my tripod like Ansel f***ing Adams, but it's good. It was good. That's why there's a little bit of that motion blur in some of the pictures. It's not actually out of focus, it's just that it was a breezy day, and with a 1/2 second shutter, it's going to pick up some of that motion blur. I think it looks pretty cool, but maybe that's just me. It gives it a little ghostly look to it. Cool. I think that is all of our optics talk. That was a lot. 8 at 1/4 of a second, and I'm gonna bracket 1 under and 1 over. So F8 at 1/2, 1/4, and 1/8. Here's the fun part. How to develop infrared film. So night and day for weeks I looked and I tried to find if anybody had developed Rollei Infrared 400 film in Cinestill DF-96. I could not find a single soul that had developed this film in the developer that I have at home. Nobody. And I was thinking, why is that? Is it special? Is there something in this film that'll make it that I need to develop it with some different chemical like Rotenol? Everybody was saying Rotenol was the way to go, but I don't have Rotenol. All I have is DF-96. So I was about to send it to the lab, but I saw that due to the virus, they're asking that people only send in rolls of film if they need them, if it's like an emergency roll of film or something. This is not an emergency roll of film, and I figured, you know what?
If he dies, he dies.
Might as well send it. So I started with a little test to see if this film was going to react well to this developer. And it didn't look good, I'm not gonna lie. I took a little piece of sample film and I soaked it in the developer just to see if it would turn black like it's supposed to, and it turned like a translucent gray. That's not looking good, but me being the smart person that I am, I figured, every sign is telling me to not do this, I might as well do it. So I did it. It turned out pretty good. I mean, I made sure to load it in as dark of a room as I could find, left it in the developer as long as I needed to completely clear the film, and I think it actually turned out pretty well. The reason that it was translucent gray instead of black was because the film base is so thin and so clear. It was reacting right, it's just normal films are so much thicker, they're black. This is very thin, so it's a translucent gray. Anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting. Scanned them, they were a pleasure to scan, and really, I'm pretty stoked with the results. So, in short, DF-96 works with IR400. You heard it here first. Go tell your friends. Go tell them to watch this video, and subscribe, and press the little bell icon. Wow, I feel like a full-on YouTuber right now. Holy cow. Look at me. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, yo. Okay. Final thoughts. This was an experience, start to finish. It was kind of nerve-wracking. It was just new, you know what I mean? I think I'm going to shoot a lot more of this in the future and just experiment with it. They sell it in medium format, so I'm going to grab a medium format roll and shoot it through the Yashica. They say that there are a few other films by Rollei that aren't dedicated infrared, but have near infrared capabilities, so I might slap a filter on and try a few of those. We'll see, but this is not going to be the last infrared episode, because it was really fun, and I think there's a lot more out there. In the meantime, if y'all have any questions, throw it in the comments. Any concerns, any suggestions on what I should do next time, let me know what your favorite picture was. And also try to subscribe, you know, if it's convenient for you, if it's possible. If it's not too much to ask. I'm just kidding. Subscribe. Alright, I'm out of here. It's been real, and it's been fun. You already know it's been real fun. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.